when you transition out of the game, a lot of guys, I don't know if I speak for myself, I didn't want people coming up to me and say, so what's next? So what are you doing now? And not having to answer when everyone knows that you're used to saying like, well, I got football, I got this, or I'm going to go train, I'm just going to go do this. And I've seen it with a lot of, friends or whatever the case may be, is that one question to kind of keep people isolated. Not moving into that next phase and kind of stuck in between that transition and out and then that transition and in to the next career path, whether, it's corporate America, whether it's coaching, whether it's an entrepreneurial route, whatever the case may be. So go over 3 things that I think for an athlete needs to implement for themselves to have a pretty smooth transition, although it's always rocky because you're changing the course of your life. Number 1 is be kind to yourself. When you've been playing a sport your whole life and when you transition out, again, that dreaded question that I said before is, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And a lot of times when people ask that and you don't have an immediate answer, you start feeling bad. Like, well, I knew it was going to be over. I know they said 26% only make it this long. Like, I know they said I should have had a backup plan, but you've been focused on trying to make the roster, trying to get to the next level, trying to do whatever the case may be. And there was an aspect of not having the right answer if it's not there, where people start feeling bad about themselves. I know I did, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to, work in football, whatever the case may be. But at the time, I'm still unemployed. I'm still in between a job. So, I didn't want to be faced with that question all the time. I always thought it was a blessing at the time when I got out of playing in the NFL. I lived in Dallas, so I was kind of secluded away from, everyone that kind of knew me on a regular basis. So I could kind of operate normal and find myself, had a chance to just kind of drop the football ego. And that's another thing that you have to do in there, drop that ego and show a level of humility to learn and fill in that gap experience. Like, you've been doing something at an elite level, trying, focusing your time, your effort, sacrificing, investing in yourself. There's some areas that maybe have not been fed the way that, other people that may be in the workforce or maybe have been a manager, or you have to drop that ego and show a level of humility to fill those gaps and understand those different learning things. And these will help you usher into the second point that I think everyone should understand when you're transitioning in for athletes. Lean into your strengths and your interests. You know what I mean? Because again, you're moving away from something that you've been doing and taking up all your time to kind of to master, to be a pro at it, to play in the top 7% in college or whatever the case may be, where D2, D3, just emotional attachment to the game. Understand, like, when you're leaving it, you have to lean into those things that maybe those interests that you never scratched before, to see what you want to actually press the gas pedal on in that next phase. For me, like, I went back and I was starting my sports psychology degree. I just started doing stuff. I took a sales job. I was doing scouting, analytics. At one point, even in Dallas, I started selling mineral rights, right? Like, I was trying different things, but it was more looking for those critical skills, because I was like, all right, I knew I wasn't a great marketer or selling myself, because I was, as an athlete, you're told, play on the field and let people come to you or reward or talk about you based on your performance, merit-based mentality. And just going out, being able to talk and sell a product or whatever the case may be, just that level of communication, it was something that I just wasn't naturally used to, but I knew in any things that I wanted to do, it was a skill that I had to continue to pick up. So, like, leaning into those strengths and understanding as an athlete, you do have an advantage over a lot of people, right? Like, being fearless and closing that gap, because you're used to being in a constant feedback echo chamber, whether it's going to practice, going to film, and someone's yelling at you and you have to sit there with other people that, you trust, that respect you, that you have to go out there and perform with. Like, that level of conditioning of always constantly getting better, that high pressure situation, a lot of people aren't used to that level of, like, heat in the kitchen. And the third thing would be seek feedback to expedite improvement. And I'll tell you, again, when I talked about the film reference, I mean, the third one was one of the keys to me getting one of my first jobs when I worked at Ideal Physical Therapy in Dallas, Texas. They told a story at the sales convention after the first year of being there, how after my interview, I sat and I asked, like, I pretty much interviewed the guy about how I did on the interview, because I was trying to lean in and like to get better. Like I wanted to know what I was doing wrong because again, I was uncomfortable not knowing how I performed in sense of, on film or whatever the case may be. If it's bad, let me know it's bad so I can know what to fix. And it's like, the sales manager at the time was so blown away by, me seeking out to improve and all that different stuff. It gave me opportunity, and I had an opportunity to accelerate, my career off the field and had some success there and was able to, really show and prove that I can handle myself off the field in corporate America doing sales and marketing, me in different relationships with doctors, physical therapists, whatever the case may be, but having a bridge to my career. I had injuries, so it was like, again, a job where I wasn't just picking out of nowhere, but I had injuries. I'm used to talking to doctors, physical therapists, so I felt like it was something that I could use my strengths and build complementary skills around and do that. So it's harder to seek feedback in something that you're not confident in or not aware of what you're doing. So like even when I'm talking about leaning into your strengths or seeking feedback, a lot of athletes, remember, know what you know. That's another thing I want you to do, because a lot of times when you're stepping into places, as an athlete or as an elite athlete coming into different spaces, people want to make you feel like, have a, inclination about you. Like maybe you're a little arrogant, maybe you're used to giving things handed. So they try to make it a little harder. Like, you can't do X, you can't do Y. And some of that, you'll feel it sometimes, but like having a confidence and knowing what you know, but still having a humility of, there may be some gaps that you can continue to fill in, but that's why it's so important to continue to seek feedback, expedite that improvement process, because there's different levels and critical skills that maybe you may be lacking. And then once you fill those in, all the aspects of being an athlete that came with being, training and being disciplined, being competitive, start to naturally kick back in, and you can kind of transition in and start going up that next mountain. So like those would be the three things for transitioning back in to another career or a second career. Like one, be kind to yourself, understand, drop your ego, show some humility in what's going on. You've been dedicated to football or any sport your whole life. Lean into your strengths and interests, whether it's your personal interests, you're going to finish your degree, get your master's at the time, try different jobs, try different things. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, it's a great time to kind of figure it out and learn those things around your strengths and your interests. You know what I mean? And the last thing to expedite this whole process is kind of throughout the process throughout that phase, it's like seek feedback and to expedite your improvement. Because that's what you really want to do, kind of get back into that habit as you were as an athlete, where it's like, all right, I perform, what's going on? I perform, what's going on? I know when I was in sales, it was like, all right, you got to see X many offices a day, we're going to track this, we're going to do based on sales. It was like, okay, once I put certain things in place, I knew what I was kind of selling, how can I position my story? It kind of got back into the mode of being an athlete, or like incorporating some of the things that I was doing as an athlete to make that transition a little easier, or like securing some of the insecure spots that I did have, stepping into corporate America. And then that kind of helped with everything transitioning back into football and kind of builds up on those skills. But you have to continue to take that step, because like I said, a lot of guys, and I know for me, I'm saying a lot of guys, but for me, it was hard. I didn't want to hear anyone say like, hey, what's up next? Or what are you going to be doing? What's your next career move? And, if you're not at the top because you've been working your whole life to get to the top of where you are, starting over is a little daunting for anybody, especially when it's starting over, even in your own sport. You know what I mean? Like I tried to get jobs in football where I was turned away, and you start questioning like, man, I've been playing football my whole life and I can't get a GA job. Like I can't get a high school coaching won't let me in. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? So there was like a level of anger. So there's like a lot of curveballs that do come with transitioning back in. But I think these three things can really help be a guide or some things to remember. Subscribe, like the video, continue to come with some more football operations, development, recruiting, insights on the Blue Chip Academy podcast. Any questions, please don't hesitate to book a consult. And that's it, man. Life is good.